Hello everyone, this is another lesson in the series of lessons discussing the construction of Arabic sentences. So this is the third lesson, and in the previous lesson we learned how to say the, and we put an adjective of an object, is, and we put a piece of news, right? Forward, which is a subject of our discussion, right? So now, in this lesson, we're going to learn how to say this in the past form, was. So instead of saying the big circle is blue, we're gonna learn how to say the big circle was blue. In Arabic, of course. And before we do that, I'm going to discuss the word that we use to put a sentence in the past, and this is in Arabic is the word kana. Kana. Okay, this word has many forms, but for our needs, we will only for our usage, we'll only need kana and kanat. Kana and kanat. Okay? Now, I might go a bit into grammar, but I hope this will not confuse you. When we are with kana, we look at the subject that is following it, so the object that we're trying to describe or give a piece of news, and according to that, we will choose either kana or kanat. Okay? The other thing is that the ending, when kana comes in front of the sentence, we will change the ending of the second thing, which is the news, the second word. So usually we would have, for example, da'iratun, or ad-da'iratu kabiratun. Usually it will end in one form of dhamma. When kana comes in front, what happens is that you would change the second one from dhamma to fatha or one forms of fatha. Now, just for your information, the forms of fatha, if we are talking singular, usually it's either in dhamma. The forms of dhamma, if we're talking about singular, it might come as dhamma or as tanween dhamm. In fatha, it will be fatha or tanween fath. And in the case of dual, usually if it ends with alif and nun, that's equivalent to the dhamma, and if it ends with ya nun, this is equivalent to fatha. And one type of the masculine plural would have an ending either with waw nun, which is equivalent to dhamma, or ya nun, which is equivalent to fatha. Now let's put this aside and start our lesson. Actually, one more thing. I'm going to go through a few examples, still in the present tense, just to clear one thing. Okay. All our examples talked about singular objects or singular subjects, or the word that we're describing were singular. And we never went to plural, which is a bit more confusing. But let's take a few examples. Let's say the monster is tired. Okay, in Arabic that would be al-wahshu متعب. الوحش متعب. If I want to say the monsters are tired, this will depend on two things. Are the monsters 2 or 3? And or I mean 2 or 3 or more? Because in English you do not distinguish between 2 or 3. You only distinguish whether it's 1 or more than 1. In Arabic you have words for 1, you have words for 2, which is the dual form, and words for 2 and above, 3 and above. So we do not consider a word to be plural unless it is three, describing 3 objects or 3 people or 3 persons and more. Okay. That being said, the translation for the monsters are tired, if there are 2, we would say الوحشان متعبان. الوحشان متعبان. And you see we used alif nun, which is equivalent to dhamma in this kind of sentence. The other possibility is that there are 3 or more, and in that case we would say الوحوش الوحوش متعبة متعبة. الوحوش متعبة. So we have to notice something. Maybe some of you might have wondered this, that here it was متعب, here it was متعبان, which is followed وحشاني, and here it was the adjective or the piece of news, sorry, it was متعبة, and it was not متعبون or متعبوش or whatever. The ending switched to be singular feminine form. And actually we see this in Arabic with the plural when we're talking about objects that are not humans. So basically, if we're talking about dogs, cats, monsters, objects in general, like doors, windows, pens, all of these objects, once they are 3 or more, the piece of news or the adjective becomes in the feminine form, singular feminine form. So let's take a few examples on the plural case, 3 or more. Okay, I'll just demonstrate with a few examples. For example, if we're talking about male doctors, okay, and we want to say the doctors are old. Okay, we would write الأطباء كبار. الأطباء كبار. If it was one doctor, I would say الطبيب كبير. Okay. On the other hand, if I take a similar sentence, okay, the word old in Arabic could also mean big. So if I go and say the pen is big, okay, or the pens are big, and that sentence I would translate to الأقلام كبيرة. And if it was just one pen, it would be القلم كبير. So notice that although qalam, which is a masculine word, and tabib is a masculine word, they both, when you describe them with an adjective or you give a piece of news, you would use the masculine form. When they become in the plural form, in three or more, group of three or more, you would treat them differently. Because when we're talking about doctors, we're talking about humans, and masculine humans, we would give them kibarun, while aqlam, which are objects that are not human, you would give them kabiratun. Okay, aqlamun kabiratun. The same applies if we're talking about dogs. Okay, if we're saying instead of the doctors, the dogs are old. Okay, we also say kilabun, which means dogs. Kabiratun. Okay, and we used the form of kabir, which is feminine singular, and that's because dogs in this case are not humans, they are animals. Okay, so this being said, let's start our lesson, and our lesson is how to make a sentence of the sentences that we learned before, how to put it in the past tense. So the answer is actually very simple. Let's take one of our previous examples. The girl is pretty. We said that the translation for this is الفتاة جميلة. Okay, now how do we transform this into was pretty? The girl was pretty. In Arabic, you would put ka, a form of kana. It's either kana or kanat in this case, and it would be kanat. كانت الفتاة جميلة, and we transform the piece of news ending from ضمة to فتحة. Okay, so it would be جميلة. كانت الفتاة جميلة. Okay, now here's the thing. If you're using كانت with and the next word has ال, it would be كانت. كانت الفتاة جميلة. This is how fluently it would be. If you're going to pronounce each word separately, you would say كانت الفتاة جميلة. If you're going to say it all together, it's كانت الفتاة جميلة. كانت الفتاة جميلة. Okay. Next example. Let's take the doctors are old. Okay, and for that, the translation would be, the word for doctor is tabib. Tabib. If there are more than three, it would be atibba. Atibba. And the word for old is the same for big, which is kabir. For the case of more than three, and they are masculine, it would be kibar. Kibar. Now, how do we say the doctors are old? It would be al-atibba'u kibarun. الأطباء كبار. How do we put this in the past tense that we were. Okay, in Arabic, all you have to do, you add kana to it in the front. So we have two options. It's either kana or kanat. How do we know? Well, if our subject of speaking, the object that we're describing, is masculine, it takes usually masculine form, we would use kana. If it takes the feminine form, we would use kanat. Okay, so in our case, we'll choose kana for this sentence, and it would be kana al-atibba'u, and we have to change this to kibaran. Kana al-atibba'u kibaran. This is how we make this sentence into into the past tense. So let's take the dogs are big. Okay. And this will not make sense, but anyway, this will translate to word for dog is kalb, but for dogs it would be kilab. Kilabun. And the word for big is the same word for old, which is kabir. And because we're talking about a lot of dogs, we would use kibar. Now, that is wrong. Because dogs are not human, we will use kabiratun. We will use the feminine form, because the feminine form in this case, this is what we use if it's not human. We don't use the masculine plural form of the adjective or the word. We use the feminine singular form. So this is, as I said before, only for if we're describing three or more of a non-human object or thing. So in this case, it applies for dogs. So al-kilabu kabiratun. Al-kilabu kabiratun. Now, how do we make it the dogs were big? Well, we have to put in front either kana or kanat, right? And then we have to change this to fatha. Now, do we use kana or kanat? Well, the hint is we used kabiratan, okay, kabira, because again, dog are this word dogs is the plural, and it's not human, so we have to use kabiratan. We're talking kanat. So kanatil kilabu kabiratan. The dogs were big. Okay, so now let's take one easy example. And that example is we saw this before. The red cube is cute. How do you say this? Well, let's translate it. First part would be muka'abun. And what's the word for red? It's ahmar. And because muka'abun is a singular masculine, it would be ahmarun. And cute is dharifun. Dharifun. Now let's translate it all together, and this would be al-muka'abu al-ahmaru ظريف. Now just notice something. I will keep track of the first part and the second part of my translation. Okay, because now I'm going to make this in the past. Okay, the red cube was cute. In Arabic, again, we will have to use either kana or kanat in front. So since we're talking muka'ab and it's singular, it's direct, we'll have to use, if it's a masculine, we have to use kana. Okay, kana al-muka'abu al-ahmaru. And what we change is not this, what we change is that. It's the piece of news that we delivered, which is equivalent to cute. This is what changes to ظريفا. From ظريف to ظريفا, we change the dhamma to fatha. Okay? So again, kana, if it comes at the beginning, we will take the piece of news and we will change it to fatha. Now, for those of you who want to be or who want to study the Arabic grammar calls this subject mubtada and calls this part, which is the piece of news of that subject, khabar. Okay, so this is just for your information. I will not elaborate on this more. So this was the lesson for this time. As always, I invite you to join us at facebook.com/homelang1. Please, if you have any suggestions, any questions, post it there. If you have any requests, I will be happy to answer all of these over there. You can also comment on the YouTube videos and I will try to reply as soon as I can. Thank you very much for watching and see you next time.